Hey, I'm Zach Watts, and this is IPF Racing. Before I jump into this build series, I really want to give some background on myself, what I do with IPF Racing, and then give a tour of the garage and shop because, well, I haven't done that since I put the garage together almost 2 years ago now. So we're going to start with a little bit of background about me and IPF Racing, and then I'll do a little walk around and show everybody the shop. Alright, so a little background about me. I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked at GM for a long time. That was my most recent employment outside of what I do now. And before that, I worked at Pratt & Miller doing defense engineering and some racing stuff. They're really known for Corvette racing, and you'll see a bunch of posters around here. It's basically how we got paid. And before that, I went to Kettering up in Flint, Michigan, and that's where I got my degree. And that's where I started racing, really. I did Formula and Baja SAE. And ran the Baja team there, so building, single-seater race cars for basically kids. And so I got to that point because I've been a car kid. I've been a car person my whole life. My grandpa on my mom's side, drag racing, big into building cars and stuff. Gave me a go-kart that did like 50 when I was 6. I couldn't reach the pedals, but it was awesome. And then my dad's always been a car guy, big DIY guy. So I really took all that, put it together and grew it into what is now known as IPF Racing. The IPF moniker started as It's Probably Fine as a hashtag in college that we used on our race cars when we really didn't know everything that we were doing. And now it's grown into more of a confidence thing. I say it's probably fine. It's because I know it's going to work. Or I at least have the confidence to say I can fix it. If it doesn't, it's not really a big deal. But this all started when GM sent everybody home for COVID. I bought a 3D printer because I had a lot of free time and I was just sitting in a studio apartment by myself. And so after, 2 months, I had like 4 printers and I was making parts for the Chevy Caprice. I had a 2014 Caprice at the time, which they only sold here as a cop car. Basically, I was trying to take the Caprice and make it a little more daily driver friendly because it was a cop car, it didn't have a center console, didn't have a lot of creature comfort type stuff. And so I was 3D printing stuff to adapt the SS console. That really grew. Another Holden platform, the Pontiac G8. I started making the G8 hood vents, and that's how I ended up with a bunch of printers real fast. I think I had like 50 or 60 orders. I think I had like a 2-month lead time right after I posted those. Unfortunately, sorry guys, it kind of ruined the market for those. But I've grown that into what the company is now, and it really got to a point where when GM had the voluntary separation, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, I was able to take that. I met the requirement by like 3 days or something. There's a minimum of 5 years with the company and you could take that voluntary separation, but it allowed me to take the opportunity to do IPF full time, something I really wanted to do, but I was doing IPF on the side and then, full time at GM, and I was really doing more of IPF if we're honest. But it's grown into this reverse engineering and prototype manufacturing company where I remake rare car parts for people. People send me one-offs of something, or, you only have a left side and you need a right side. And, I do 3D scanning and then I do 3D modeling. And then I got a number of different ways that I can remake parts. So there's a wall of 3D printers behind me, the CNC mills on the other side of the calendar behind me. And so I'll give you a tour of everything that's back here, but this project that I'm about to start is really going to be a culmination of all of my abilities that I've, put together this far. And I think it's gonna be great for the Holden community because it's just gonna be something that's different that nobody's really kind of done to that extent before. And I think it'll be big. I mean, I'm making this video for me and for people that want to follow along with the build, but also I have sponsors that are helping out with the build, so I'm not just accountable to me at this point, which is great because I didn't ever think I'd get to the point where I was building a car that other people want to be involved in. But after building the Datsun, which will, I'll do a video on that at some point, but after doing the Datsun and having that at a bunch of car shows and people really, respecting that build, it was time to kick it up a notch even more. So let's kick off this tour of the garage shop, and yeah, we'll see where this build takes me. So thanks for following along. All right, so my garage shop started out as a 2-car garage. I think it was built in the 60s. This edition that I'm standing in now, I think it was done in the 80s. And this side is what I like to call the engineering side. It's really just the quiet side because there's no machines over here. But this is where my office is. This is where a lot of storage is behind me. And this also shipping station behind you. But if I walk around here and kind of give you a quick run around. So this is like active parts working. This is parts storage. This is my new laser cutter, Danielle's vinyl cutter that I use a lot, so it's out here. And then this table is like active scanning stuff, so I need to scan all of this after I finish filming this. And then some inventory up here. And then I do have 2 machines here that I don't use that frequently. This is a small injection molder that I put together like 2 years ago that I still haven't used. And then this is my little mini industrial shredder I built. I really just use it to shred cardboard that I use as packing material. The original intent was to use that for shredded prints, like failed prints and support material, and then use that in the injection molder. I think I'm gonna start trying to do some more of that again soon, but we'll see. And then on this side, this is where I sit all day, right? So this is my PC, and then this is my scanning table, and then I've got the giant calendar that I try to keep track of everything on. My brain doesn't really work that way, but I try. And then over here behind you, this is my shipping station. It's really just another shelf setup with a little PC and all my boxes and whatnot. But let's get into the more fun side, which is the manufacturing side, and we'll go through that. All right, so to get to the manufacturing side, I cut out this giant hole in the wall. This is like completely walled off from the other side. The garage door is actually 2 barn doors. One of them is now used as a sliding door, so I can kind of close it off and keep it a little quieter over here. So the big thing that catches everyone's eye when they come in here is my Haas VF2. It's a pretty big mill to have in your garage. I know my garage is bigger than most people's, but not by that much. But so I've got a 4th axis, so I can do a lot of really cool stuff in here. I do a lot of my own products, and then I do a lot of private label manufacturing for other companies too, to try to just, help pay the bills and whatnot. I absolutely hate machining, but it does pay the bills. So in front of that, I've got this 60-year-old Craftsman Atlas lathe that I got from my buddy Brett over at FinFab. Did a bunch of, refurbishing on, and it works well. It's not super accurate, but it works well for like making bushings and soft stuff like that. This is kind of like my toolbox island. So this is like the lathe toolbox. This box over here is for the mill, so it's got end mills and collets and tool holders and whatnot. And then this one over here, this is really just like my hand tools, generic stuff. Back here behind the mill, I've got a bunch of storage for, drill bits and customer fixtures and some pallets for production stuff. Over here, this meth lab looking setup, 5-gallon buckets. This is my small anodizing setup. I do a lot of little parts, just for like my own small one-off things. All of my bigger orders for anodizing from customers, I take that to a local place. I just do really tiny stuff here. But I have this hood vent set up so I can extract that battery acid fumes out of here. There was a wood stove in the corner over here when I moved in. So there's a chimney here, and so I reuse that chimney to try to extract a lot of that. Okay, so this is the big printer wall. There's 11 printers behind me. I think I've got some more in storage in the basement. I've had upwards of like 18, but as I upgrade printers, I can kind of reduce the amount because they're just so much faster now than they used to be. But so like down here, I've got 2 FL Sun S1s. One of those caught on fire recently, so don't buy one of those. They kind of suck. Up here, this is all spare filament. These are all spare parts. And then I only use like big rolls of filament because I use the same ASA for all of my products really. So I buy 5 kilogram spools, and I probably buy like 10 or 15 of them at a time. And that lasts me like a month or 2. So you kind of get the picture of how much I'm printing. But so I've got this big resin printer, and then I've got 2 bamboos here, And then I've got a couple Prusa MK3Ss. One of them's modified to be really tall, so if you are familiar with my G8 hood vents, that's the guy that does those. And then underneath, these are some Creality Ender 5 Maxes that are pretty new, and then a Creality CRM4 on the end that's a little bit bigger but a lot slower. And then they're enclosed. The older printers are the ones that I haven't gotten the enclosures for yet because they're still shipping. Covered in this grow tent material. It's just the cheapest way to keep the heat in. The ASA I print in really likes to have the heat to keep it from warping and cracking. Down past the printers, this is like my tool storage corner. It's a spare toolbox from a long time ago. Saws and extension cords and my 5-gallon bucket tumblers under there, but it's all stuff I don't use all the time. It just kind of gets hidden in the corner, like a shop vac setup. And then I got this really cool 5-ton ratcheting arbor press recently. This DIY hitch receiver tool setup is really nice because I can store all my different, smaller tools on it that I do need, but I can move them out of the way. And so I've got a tiny drill press on here. I've got this little bench grinder. There's a disc sander down here. And then right here, I've got this Wilton vise, and that used to be on there as well until I got my welding table, which is right next to me now. I make a lot of custom tube fixtures, 3D printed tube fixtures for my fabrication customers. So I got myself a welding table just to prove that out a little bit more before I send those out, which is really convenient, especially because I just did a big welding project on the Datsun. And then I've got some cheap welders behind it. I've got a MIG and a TIG. I don't really offer those services because I'm not an expert, but I can definitely melt some metal together. And then, this is some big billet material for 2GR intake I'm about to machine for a customer. And then underneath, there's a huge pallet of material for some of the stuff that's on the mill right now that I'm working on. Back here, I've got a CNC router. It's actually my buddy Ty's, but I use that to cut the foam for my billet strut mounts to ship those in, just so they're not getting beat up. Right? And if I anodize something, I don't want it to get all dinged in shipping. So, and then what car guy garage wouldn't be fit without all these Rock Auto magnets? So this is my beer fridge that really just has LaCroix and root beer. But this is the manufacturing side. We'll go back over to the engineering side and wrap this up. So that was probably too much talking about a space that I spend all day, every day in, but that is the 850 square feet that make up IPF Racing and that allow me to do this full time and be able to make sweet custom one-off parts for people. And so yeah, if you want to see the build that I'm about to do, I'm going to unveil it in the next video. I hate when people just start a build, but I don't know who they are because I don't watch that much YouTube. But yeah, I think it's going to be a sweet build. I think you should follow along. I think you should do whatever you're supposed to do with the buttons and whatnot, because it helps me and it keeps my sponsors happy. And I'm probably going to start selling merch if you want to support that way, which is I hate having to say these things, but you probably don't need weird custom parts, so yeah, I have a t-shirt. But that's me. I'm Zach. This is IPF Racing. Thanks for watching.